So thank you for joining us today. Next slide. All right, I just want to go over the event guidelines for all of us. The video of this event will be recorded. You will not appear on video, just the folks that are presenting will be on video. Mute courtesy, your audio will be muted during but if you do have questions, please submit them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. For the questions, please don't put them into chat. We don't usually see them. We look at them in the Q&A section. So please, very important that you keep it there. Closed captioning, it is available. To turn it on, click on the live transcription icon at the bottom of your screen and select your preference. Right. So here's a quick recap of our agenda. We're going to do a quick round of introductions, followed by 3 key topics that we're going to be talking about. One is engineering update. This is a very tech-focused update that we're going to share on what's happening behind the scenes. We're going to talk about scaling Meetup and an update on what's happening with apps. At the very end, we're going to leave 15 minutes for all the Q&A. So please do have your questions all set up, and there we will be able to address them at the end. So on that note, I'm going to start with the introductions. Today with me, I have 2 of our fantastic Meetup engineering leaders. Again, my name is Rajiv Ahmed. I'm the CTO. We'll just do a quick roundtable of, I'm going to change it up. So each person do an introduction and tell us what was your last Meetup event that you joined. So Anise, why don't we start with you?
All right. Hey, I'm Anise Davis, Senior Director of Engineering. My last Meetup event was actually one focused on Jetpack Compose on Android.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm Jameson. I'm a Senior Engineering Manager here. The last Meetup event I attended was something about cryptocurrency. Yeah, smart tokens.
No, nice,
Jameson.
Cool. You're going to have to share some crypto secrets with me later. All right, I will come into the next part of this, which is really the engineering updates. I will give a formal introduction on myself first. So on the next slide, a little bit about me. I joined in 2020, in October of 2020. My background is, I've been in many startups, a lot of different types of technologies, tons and tons of different disruptive tech companies. Well, not tons, about 7 or 8 of them. And look, I'm here today because I want to help people connect and make a deeper impact for our Meetup community. So feel free to find me on Twitter at it's Rajiv Ahmed, or on LinkedIn, where you can follow me as well. Next slide. All right, so I want to talk about our engineering strategy, which really is our 2022 engineering roadmap. It focuses us on shaping our platform for the future. Now, we're doing this by focusing on 3 core areas. So the 3 areas really are shifting our community experience to our new platform, which we are going to call Build Meetup. So every time I say Build Meetup, that's our entire new platform. We are focusing on speed, which really means how do we make the performance super fast on all devices, on all areas of our platform. And the last one is really about scale, business continuity, and disaster recovery. So, I want to talk a little bit about Build Meetup, what that actually means for us, and the why. So we chose to do this project because we realized that we were really behind in the industry in terms of being mobile friendly. Our technologies that we were using were very old. They're basically in JSP and Jython. Some people don't even know those programmatic languages. The architecture was very monolithic. What does monolithic mean? That means you change one area, all of a sudden it hurts another area or breaks another area, and it was very inefficient for us. That doesn't allow us to be able to move fast. And ultimately, it was not set up really to take advantage of modern cloud technologies. In short, we had a lot of technical depth, which includes it being a legacy system, a lot of business rules that folks didn't know about, and honestly, a lot of it, they may not make sense anymore. So that put us into setting the course to really build a Meetup, which gives us an improved architecture, languages that are modern, and allows us to iterate quickly as we go. So in Q1 and Q2 of this year, we launched our new platform. It's based on React, Next.js, and TypeScript, and our APIs are all moving to GraphQL APIs and away from older REST APIs. APIs are basically, for the non-technical folks, it allows our website and our applications to get and send data that ultimately talks to our database and basically gives information back so that you can get the experiences that you need. So this, the overall, like we really shipped the projects in Q1 that really touched some smaller areas. So we moved our profile settings, we launched the new platform, we saw that it was super fast moving and we were able to iterate quickly, and we started moving other initiatives onto there. In Q2, we looked at our member areas, which includes discovery, the find pages, recommendations, our new homepage, which we were able to release in Q2. So in Q3 and Q4, we're going to be moving more things. We're taking our event pages, we're looking at login and registration, enhancing our security features, and taking our groups in Q4 and taking that experience along with toolings and notifications that we're going to be enhancing and pulling, getting those out at the late quarter this year. So we're really excited. Our platform does a ton for us. The second thing that we really wanted to focus is on speed. When we're building this platform, we want to make sure that we are aiming to improve ultimately the speed at which information is coming in. That really helps us power our apps, really helps us power our performance on our websites. We were able to, just focusing on our API, move it down from 425 milliseconds to 270 milliseconds in the course of the last 6 months. Now, this is really important because our community is global and not everyone has fast connections, and the ability to get information quicker means the faster we can render our screens, the faster that we can render our pages, and the better the user experience will be. So we will be continuing to focus on this really to ensure that we deliver fast and robust experiences. Next slide. So here's an example of just by changing the APIs what we saw. If you looked at our homepage, we were able to knock it from 2.9 seconds to 0.9 seconds. That is huge when you don't have a great connection. This is huge just by changing our APIs and not even anything on the front end. It just reshapes the speed that we can get information. So just quick sample. There's a lot of things that have upgraded, but this was a small share that I thought was worth putting out there. The next one is really scale, business continuity, and DR. We're making sure that we take a deep look at our infrastructure. We put a lot of work into this. We want to ensure that our community is able to access our platform 24/7. We want to make sure our apps, APIs, and our website are reliable and always available. And we want to make sure that as we're enhancing our infrastructure, that we keep security, we make sure we do audits, we make sure our data stays to be secure as we scale. So again, in summary, we're making a ton of progress. Here's a quick snapshot of the becoming. It's going to be very active, very busy, but we know that these are all important things that really will shape our future. And to talk about scale further, I stayed away from going into the details. I'm going to pass it over to Jameson now, and he'll go a bit deeper in regards to scaling Meetup.
Thanks, Rajiv. All right. Hello again. I am an engineering manager here at Meetup, and I'm here today to talk about how we scale our product. Let's see. So what is scale? Some stats. We support 56 million members and an average of 475,000 monthly events in 193 countries. This uses roughly 1,000 servers, 400 Lambda functions, and almost 2 petabytes of data. And this is just for our core product. It doesn't include analytics, logs, or internal tools, things like that. So why do we care about scalability? I'll start with an anecdote. Our journey to global scalability started, ironically, with another scalability problem. Amazon Web Services, or AWS for short, is a global leader in cloud hosting, offering hundreds of products to hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide. However, last fall, AWS experienced an outage in their US East 1 data center, an outage that impacted much of the internet. The root cause involved scaling their data stream service, known as Kinesis. In short, adding capacity in one place caused problems in other places. The Kinesis outage impacted other AWS services too, including a few that we rely heavily on at Meetup. The problem was we had all our eggs in one basket, so to speak. Meetup software was almost entirely hosted in this data center. So when it went down, there was little we could do beyond learn from the situation. Once the outage was resolved, we took a long look in the mirror and asked how we could continue to serve the Meetup community during an outage like this. So what did we do? What was our strategy? Well, first, we performed an audit of our systems and cataloged single points of failure. These are parts of our infrastructure that would cause big problems if they suddenly became unavailable. And spoiler alert, we found a lot. Next, we determined a long-term roadmap for resiliency. We picked the most critical systems and made a plan to clone them in different geographic regions. Put simply, we would start with our front end, then move on to our APIs, and then tackle our data layer. This plan would also improve the performance of our product in different locations by effectively moving Meetup closer to our members and organizers. Then with the plan in place, we got to work putting it together. So how do we build this? What tools do we choose? For years now, Meetup has been all in on AWS for hosting, and we use Fastly for edge routing, caching, and other logic. Within each region, ALBs, or load balancers, spread traffic across servers, or tasks and containers, ECS clusters provisioned with Fargate, add and remove servers, or tasks, as load changes. This ensures that we always have the right amount of servers, neither too few nor too many at any given time. Using Fargate here reduces operational overhead for our engineers. It handles a lot of the configuration details, so we don't have to. We use RDS Aurora to distribute databases across availability zones for performance and redundancy, with future plans to scale these across regions as well. VPCs and security groups ensure that only authorized components can talk to each other on our network. And the secret sauce is that we do this for each region using Fastly to direct traffic to the nearest available location. Not only does this provide a faster browsing experience, but if one of these regions went offline, as happened last year, others would simply pick up the slack. Okay, like many complex projects, there were plenty of bumps in the road. When scaling our APIs, we found lots of dependencies that also had to be scaled. Our backend is not a thing, rather it's a family of things all working together. Moving one piece to multi-region means we have to move all pieces to multi-region. Some of our software is quite old, and not everything was initially built to run in the cloud. This required a lot more refactoring than we expected. With every new feature we build and every optimization we make, is a potential place for attackers to exploit. We made a habit of asking ourselves, how could this be compromised before launching anything? We also asked external security experts for help. Adding all this extra infrastructure can get really expensive. To mitigate this, we optimized our scaling rules within each region so that our systems would automatically grow and shrink with demand. And we periodically revisit these rules to make sure they continue to provide the right balance of performance and cost. So what's next? Well, earlier this year, we started this journey with our new web platform, what we call Build Meetup Web. And currently we're working on our APIs and business logic. Later this year and into 2022, we plan to tackle our data layer. And then further down the road, we plan to expand into additional regions as we continue to grow overseas. We know the road to global scalability is long and full of uncertainty, but with each improvement we make, we bring Meetup closer to fulfilling our mission to empower personal growth through real human connections, even when parts of the internet unexpectedly fall over. Thanks. Back to you, Rajeep, or I guess right to you, Anise.
Thanks, Jameson. Hey, once again, I'm Anise, and I'm going to be giving you an apps update. I'll start by sharing what's new in the apps, what we're doing now, and then what you can look forward to next. So what's new? First up, the apps team shipped a massive replatform of the event home on both iOS and Android. For those of you who have been following along, this is one of the biggest and the last major parts of the ongoing replatforming effort that's going to help make the apps faster, more network resilient, and easier to iterate on. The release also came with some UI design updates. So for those of you who are on iOS, this is available 100%, and then it's rolled out as a split test 50-50 for Android. We also released a new group search on the apps. This is the same group search that we released on the web in the spring. One thing that we were able to do this time around that we weren't able to do on the web was actually test the group search model against the legacy model that we were using. Overall, this new user experience performed much better against what we had previously. As you can see, we've also modernized the user interface. You're able to see more groups per each screen view. So we're very excited that this particular project is helping to validate the hard work that's taking place here. We have also unveiled a new category filter on event search. This is great for a few reasons. First, members have expressed a desire to more quickly narrow down the number of events that they're presented by category. Second, this filter is powered by our latest recommendation engine, which leads to more relevant results. And finally, we've seen promising results so far that this filter has led to an increase in members RSVPing to your events. But what's even more exciting is we have squashed over 340 bugs just in the past 6 months, from unexplained login errors to not being able to view recent searches for groups and events, and much more. Every single week, the product team meets with our customer support leads, and they prioritize what issues need to be addressed next. This has enabled the apps team to make meaningful quality improvements to the apps. And we're not done. We're going to continue to dedicate a portion of each release to addressing the bugs that are surfaced. So that's what we've been up to. But here's what we're doing now. We've completed the first phase of our organizer surveys for the Organizer app, which is not yet available. I'd like to thank those who are present who have helped us out with this so far. Next, we've created high fidelity designs for login and event creation. You can see a sneak peek of those designs here on the screen to the right. We went through lots of iterations based on the results of the inputs that we received directly from speaking with organizers, you folks. And finally, we've been able to have the team begin active development of this new app, and it's really exciting. But why is it so exciting for us? Well, this is our first foray into the world of Kotlin multi-platform development. Now, this is the official nerd slide for the apps team. Here is a high-level architectural diagram of the project. As I mentioned, we're using Kotlin multi-platform, or KMM. This allows us to share our business logic, including down to the data layers for both the network and the database. And then we rely on the individual platform view models and UI frameworks to power this experience. Now, for the non-nerds in the audience, we believe that by adopting KMM, we can bring you more features in a shorter amount of time. Now, what else is up next? iPad support. We receive requests every single week to bring official iPad support to the Meetup app, and we're finally working to make that a reality. It started by an audit of all screens in iPad mode, creating designs for the larger form factor, and then preparing the engineering team for development. We're really excited about all of the work that the apps team has been doing, and we thank you for your patience and support as we continue to improve our apps.
All right, thank you, Anise, and thank you, Jameson. Those are great updates. So we are finished with our main topics, but I wanted to talk about really the Meetup family and joining the Meetup family. So we are actually hiring. We have multiple roles open, and if anyone is interested in roles in product, design, development, on the data side, there's multiple opportunities that you can visit and find on meetup.com/careers. So if you're interested, make sure to apply. Next one. All right, if you are looking to become an organizer, please go to meetupsavings.com and you will be able to get a 30% off link that you will be able to use to get a discount on. So if you're interested in taking the leap and becoming an organizer, this is the best way to do it, and you start it with a great discount. Next one. All right, if you haven't heard of our podcast, please do subscribe. You can go to meetuppodcast.com. It's called Keep Connected. It's absolutely wonderful. I listen to it every time it comes out, and it's a great experience. You'll be able to listen to David Siegel, our CEO. He does interviews with many industry leaders and folks that really impact community, and it really gives back. So I highly recommend. You can scan the code, or you can just find it by looking and searching on podcasts for Keep Connected. Highly recommended. So I do hope you all check that out. And now we will go into questions and feedback. But before we go into that, if you are interested in connecting with any of us, you can find our Twitter and LinkedIn profiles here. Again, I think that's Jameson, Anise, and myself. You can definitely find us, and we're always listening and we're always monitoring on LinkedIn as well. So if you want to connect or you have something that you want to ask, please do share. All right, on that note, we're going to jump into the Q&A session. So I am going to read out the questions and I'll be then sharing them here. And then once we're finished with the questions, if we have some time, we'll try to jump into anything else anyone wants to discuss. So, all right, we have a question from Brian. And he asked, curious about Kotlin multi-platform. So Anise, I think this is going to go to you. I love the move to cross-platform dev. What are the benefits of KMM as opposed to, say, Flutter or React Native?
Yeah, that's a great question. The reason why we chose KMM over like Flutter or React Native, actually there's multiple reasons. So one is Flutter is written in Dart, and we didn't want to force the team to have to learn a new programming language. Also, it has its own rendering engine for displaying the user interface, whereas with KMM, we could take advantage of Jetpack Compose and Swift UI, respectively. And that's something that was really enticing to the team. As you can imagine, there's cross-platform solutions. So being able to choose something where iOS and Android engineers would feel comfortable, at least as comfortable as possible, was definitely high up on the list. Also, I really like the fact that KMM allows us to focus on sharing business logic, and it's not forcing us to share the entire stack. That's another reason why we went with that approach.
All right, thanks, Anise. The next question we have is from Cheryl, who asked, what made you decide to use Next.js rather than just React? Great question. I could take that one. So the reason we chose Next.js versus just vanilla React is a lot of our pages and how our audience comes to find them is through our search engines. And we wanted to make sure that we can use a framework and technology understood by the crawlers and continue to drive audience back into our properties and into the organizer pages that or event pages that we're hosting events for. It was important that we continue to expose those, and we ended up choosing languages and frameworks that would support that. So we did have React, but we chose this Next.js really for the need to deliver on SEO needs. It's been working really well for us. We've seen promising results. We also know that it helps optimize our pages faster. And that was the reason that we use Next.js versus just plain React. Now, that doesn't mean that in areas that are just for logged in members, that we can, all right, hopefully, Cheryl, that that answered your question. Harrison asked, what does KMM stand for?
It's Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile.
Great, thank you. We also have one other question. This is Murat asking, Jameson, I'll give this one to you. What is the factoring in the back end? And that's followed up with how fast are your sprints and releases?
So we have a bunch of backends, Meetup software, but we are moving more software to TypeScript and JavaScript in the backend, Node backends. But we still support Java and Scala, and as I think Rajiv mentioned earlier, some Python. But a general move towards, at least at this point, towards TypeScript and JavaScript, although we are always looking at the latest and greatest and trying to figure out what it makes sense to try vis-a-vis maybe Rust or something else. Let's see, sprints. We have been, different teams have been experimenting with 1 week versus 2 week sprints. We generally stay within that range. My teams right now follow 1 week sprints. And we release, so for web and backend, we release continuously. We have continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines. So we are constantly pushing code to production. We gate it using feature flags and other techniques. So when we have a big release, we'll release it when it makes sense from a product perspective. But it's not like on a weekly cadence. I know at the apps teams follow a more structured weekly cadence. Hope that answers your questions.
Anis, do you want to talk about the mobile cadence?
Yeah, so it's bi-weekly, and we alternate between iOS and Android.
Great. All right, I think I missed one question from earlier. So I think Deborah asked from accessibility, how's that considered into our plan? So it's always part of the plan. Great question. From the moment our design team is creating new designs or thinking about our product, we know that accessibility is super important. We have special tools that we use. We work with some partners to be able to evaluate how we can improve things and get it to a point where we know we're checking all the boxes for accessibility. We look at everything that we build in our newer platforms to meet our requirements, but tougher on the older things. But anyone want to add anything here, Jameson and Anis?
Well, so one of the tools that we look at for accessibility is just like Lighthouse. We look at the Lighthouse score of pages. But we're currently investigating a couple other tools that might be better suited for that task. Lighthouse kind of general page health sort of thing.
Yeah, there's the toolings that we use as engineers, and there's the third parties that help us do the and so that's continuously happening, so we can make sure that on top of the tools we use, if there's anything else that needs to be addressed, we do that. But we are trying to be more proactive versus reactive, which is why we engage in all those activities in the early stages. Now, that doesn't mean we don't scan and look at things after. We always will do that, but it is top of mind for us because we know it is critical.
I was going to say, so on apps, we did perform a full accessibility audit of both platforms. And then we did like a sort of triage of critical issues, and we addressed those first. And then we also have some checks when we push code. So we do like some very standard, it's called static analysis checks, just to make sure that we're actually including relevant content descriptions, et cetera, for each new piece of code that we introduce to the code base.
Great. So the next one I think is both for you. It is, can you share any new features or tools coming in the future for organizers? Anis, I say it to you because in terms of the organizer app, I'd love for you to share that. And Jameson, in general, the things that we're thinking about in the future for organizer tools on the web, it'll be a great opportunity to update all.
Okay, sure. I can start with the organizer app. So as I mentioned, that's under active development. some of the new features that we plan on releasing in the beta, which I invite you to reach out and learn about how you can participate, is first of all, exposing your event drafts in the native app, in the organizer app, and then also allowing you to have a more streamlined experience to create new events. So we know currently it can be a little clunky to create events on an app, and we are working on improving that flow.
On the website, we've had a general strategy of modernizing, our more legacy web application on a page-by-page basis, and the benefit to that is we can iterate more quickly on these pages. Some of these pages would be like your group settings, eventually event scheduling and stuff like that. So there will be incremental improvements there. We're also looking at some things like providing hints and suggestions for folks that are scheduling events, like hey, maybe with this type of group in this region, we've had good experience with events that fall between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m., things like that. So kind of data-driven insights that may help organizers to craft like an event, optimal event, I guess.
Yeah, great. Thank you both. I'll just add in a few other things. There's the analytical insights that we're looking at. There's the dashboards that we're trying to revamp for our organizers. There's the things with calendars and event creation, how to help streamline that process and make it much more easier for all the organizers. We're looking even for next year, the tools that members and organizers use to be able to chat, to be able to message each other, looking at how we can advance those. So tons of things that are either in motion, in design, in discussion. A lot of that is definitely happening. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. With your efforts to distribute your app across regions, is the data being replicated across all regions, or is user data being restricted to specific regions? Mark, that is a great question. For the things that we're talking about data, we're actually working with some cross-region experts from a security perspective to understand how we want to organize that before we make any decisions. We want to make the way we're looking at multi-region is starting with the web, looking at the APIs, and then having a data strategy that moves that along. So we're doing our due diligence to be able to answer that question. So we're engaging with the right folks to be able to really understand how we want to use that. We do know that there is a difference between disaster community and how we make that really take shape. So great question, Mark. I wish I had the definitive final approach answer, but it's something that we're working through. But I think you definitely asked the right question. Yep, go ahead, Jameson.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, for data that is less sensitive in nature, not PII data or just general transactional data, we would be looking to scale across regions. And there are a few AWS tools that we're looking at right now and vetting to see if they meet our business needs. One of those is, I think it's called Aurora Global Databases. So if you have some firsthand experience with that, please hit us up on LinkedIn because we'd love to hear about it.
All right, this is from Anonymous. How do you structure your teams, and did you have to restructure to change from a monolith? Ooh, I think I could answer this one, but I'll let other folks chime in here because I think this is a really great question. I will just take a small step in answering it, and then I'll pass it to Jameson and Ace. Yeah, so our team structures have always been pods, and a team can have one or many pods, or you can say multiple pods, or a pod can make up a team. This creates fluidity within that team cycle for folks to rotate. So that is the general approach. And well, how did we set up our structure to really change from a monolith? that one, Jameson and Anise, would love your input on the tech side, because we've done that a little different from the apps and APIs versus the platform and web teams.
Sure, I can go first here. So we certainly had to restructure, and we try to keep our teams nimble enough with enough, cross-pollination of information that if someone has to move from one team to another, it's not hugely disruptive. This allows us to help align the team that someone is on, one of our engineers is on, with that person's career goals, which change throughout the course of one's career. So if someone wanted to move from a backend team or a web team to the data team, we want to make that happen. But in terms of a general strategy, as Rajiv mentioned, we've been in pod structure for a long time, and even when we were entirely in that monolith, even though it was still like a single stack, for example, and a single repository, we still had different domains within that monolith that teams would own. So I guess the TLDR here is we like to bias for long-term ownership per team, but we like to have fluid teams that people can move in and out of. And we try to do that by, like a lot of cross-pollination of information, trying to reduce knowledge silos, and trying to unify around fewer tools so that they're tools that people know.
Yeah, and for apps is a great example, because for the organizer app, we didn't just go out and hire a whole new group of people. We started out and we said, okay, who's going to be the technical anchors for this particular app? And then we have a rotation of individuals from our primary member app who work on it. So it's still the apps team, but there's 2 pods, and we kind of keep it fluid, so that everyone has a chance to work on the new technology, to learn a new user interaction framework, paradigm, and we're helping people with their careers and growth aspirations as well.
Great, thank you, James and Anise. We are up to the last question. All right. Can you find the organizer app on iTunes? They didn't ask this, but after you answer that, you should probably mention around when will we probably find it on iTunes?
Yeah, no, not yet. It's in active development. You can expect to see the beta show up around end of October, November, release of the organizer app.
Anise, if folks are interested in helping with the organizer app, what can we share?
They can reach out to me directly. They can send me a message on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. I'm really happy, and I'll make sure your name gets on the list. So right now we're just kind of keeping a list of people who are interested in helping us with this app, and I'm more than happy to add anyone's name to it.
Great, thank you. Well, everyone, I appreciate you all taking the time to join us for this update. Thank you for the wonderful questions. We're going to have more updates in probably in 2 months, where we are going to share all the things that we've done. But we're super excited about all the great updates we were able to share and everything else we'll be doing in the next quarter. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you all soon.
Great, thanks. Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.